Martha, it is so great to spend some time chatting with you this afternoon. I have really enjoyed getting to know you as a board member of the Carroll Center for the Blind, and it's just been a joy to start working together. And I one of the things that I learned about you early on is that you're a great listener, and as a result, you ask great questions that really help to inform our conversations further. So I wanted to spend some time with you today, really delving in on how you develop these listening skills. So let's start out with that. As a child, you have a very powerful story. I was just blown away by. So tell us a little bit about your experiences as a child in terms of developing and adapting your listening skills.
It's great to talk to you too, Susan. It's really been fun working with you. I have Usher syndrome, which is a combination of both hearing and vision loss. And when I was a young kid, around 5 years old, my parents discovered that I had hearing loss, severe hearing loss. Um, and in those early days, even before that discovery, I really couldn't hear very well. And I needed to really concentrate on whoever was talking to try to understand what they were saying. I did some things that probably were not very good, like turning my mother's head to face me so I could see her while she was driving a car and I was sitting in the back seat. Not a good idea, but by being hearing impaired, ultimately I got hearing aids. But it takes a lot of effort to understand. The hearing loss was particularly acute at the higher pitches, and that's where all the consonants are. So I did not know the difference. I did not hear the difference between a V and a B and a T. And so I had to learn to lip read because I could tell the difference between how the lips shaped the letters of B, T, and B. And so I really, from an early age, concentrated hard on understanding, which means I concentrated hard on listening and making sure I understood as much as I could because I had to. There really wasn't any other choice. And, over time, that really became a part of who I was.
Yeah. So, and then later on, you started losing your eyesight. I honestly, Martha, I can't imagine how frightening that must have been while you were using a lot of your senses, your sight to read lips and understand and concentrate on what people were saying. How did your listening skills then evolve as you were losing your eyesight?
So what started happening as I was an adult and got into my 50s, I did start to lose my central vision. The vision loss that I have is due to retinitis pigmentosa, which is progressive over time. And at first you lose your night vision and then your peripheral field and then finally your central vision. And the central vision was what I used, of course, to read and to read lips and see color and all of that. When I started losing my central vision, that really affected my ability to understand because I couldn't read lips anymore. So
Mm,
now I have the situation where I can't understand and hear consonants,
mm.
and I can't read lips to tell me what the consonants are that are being said. And so again, a lot of concentration on listening, but I was able to get cochlear implants for both of my ears between 2010 and 2015. And that completely changed my world because the cochlear implants enabled me for the first time ever to hear consonants. So I could tell the difference between chair, with a hard CH, and Chicago with a soft CH. I never heard that difference, and I never, you have to sort of memorize all those words and learn how to pronounce them. And so that enabled me to understand speech a lot better. And as before, because of the hearing impairment primarily, and now that I had lost vision, I'm totally blind now. And once I lost vision, I have to listen very hard. And it takes a lot of effort sometimes. There's no question about that. But at the same time, it enabled me to really stay focused on the person who I was speaking with. It enabled me to repeat back to the person what I thought I understood from what they said. And because it was such a habit with me over so many years, I just think it's part of how I interact with people. I am really focused on what they're saying, both because I'm interested in them and I really need to focus in order to understand.
Yeah. But in terms of being a really great listener, are there certain tips or things that you try to really pay attention to when you're in a meeting or when you're meeting with a prospective a donor in terms of making sure you know what's being said in that meeting?
Yeah. So the main thing for me is to first of all try to be as prepared as possible before I let's say I'm going into a meeting or I might be getting ready to talk to a prospective donor. I want to be prepared. I want to know as much background information as I need and as I can to learn about the topic of the meeting or the background of the donor. And that is really important. Then, when I am in the meeting or talking to a donor, really focusing on the person and the subject, trying to follow the conversation wherever it goes. Don't try to interrupt anybody. If somebody is talking to you, and let's focus on the donor for now, because this is a group that reaches out to lots of donors. Let make sure that you're letting the donor say whatever it is they want to say. If you don't understand something, try to repeat back to them for clarification. I think I understood you to say such and such. And so, and and be empathetic to whatever their concerns are. Don't dismiss it. A lot of times people may listen to a concern that I have, and then they're just very dismissive about it. It turns me off completely.
Mm.
Uh, don't be interrupting. And if there's a moment of silence while they're trying to collect their thoughts, let them collect their thoughts and wait for them to say something. And
I want to chime in there for just a minute if I can. I used to be a singer, and I was having dinner last night with my old vocal coach, and I was talking with him because he would always be talking about the rest and what happens in music in the rest. And it's the same thing, isn't it? When a prospect that you're meeting with needs to take just a minute. And if you fill the rest, you may be missing some really important information that's coming up.
yeah, exactly. And and I think you try to understand and listen to also the nuances of things that people may say. They may even mention something in passing, and you're thinking, oh, okay, remember that. Might come in handy at some point. Maybe they mention in passing, I don't know, a birthday of someone that's important to them. Well, if you're really pursuing a major donor, uh, maybe it's good for you to write that down and make sure you let
Yeah.
them know or acknowledge the birthday of that particular person. So you're listening for what they want, what matters to them, what's happening in their lives, um, and you're listening to them. They are your focus, not you. You are not their focus. They are your focus. And they're not interested. I never go in to a prospective donor conversation or meeting thinking I'm going to tell them all about me. I want to hear about them and I want to know more about them and I want to know what matters to them and what is important to them. And that means you have to listen very definitely. You have to listen carefully, not
Yeah.
interrupt, not try to make your own, insert your own story into whatever story they are saying. So all of those are, I think, important tools or tips in terms of making sure you are really listening to what someone is saying.
Yeah. Martha, one of the things that I've seen you do very well now, once in a prospective donor meeting, other times in board or steering committee meetings, is asking some clarifying questions that really helps to summarize and reconfirm is what I understood you to say is this. And I love how you do that. It has been very defining in some important moments. And from a board member's perspective, that's great because it's also demonstrating for all of us that would like to have our board members involved like you, just how important it is to you as a board member to make sure you're understanding what this prospective person is adding to the conversation. Any thoughts on that?
That is a very, very good point, Susan. And I do that often. And sometimes I do it because I know if I have a question about or any confusion about
Mhm.
whatever the topic is, then I know everybody around me probably has the same confusion.
Yeah,
But for whatever reason, a lot of people are unwilling to sort of make that clarifying question. And I often say, if I am understanding it correctly, or I think I understood you to say
right,
that the most important thing to you is that your son be treated for his retinitis pigmentosa or whatever it is.
right, right,
And or in any situation that may involve multiple people, uh, as I understand it, what you would like us to do now is X, Y, Z.
yeah,
And it's or as I understand it, the best next step from your point of view is to do ABC.
yeah,
And it wraps up the conversation, it summarizes the conversation, it clarifies for everyone what the conclusion, so to speak, or the main takeaway points are for that particular conversation. And so, and it just makes sure that everybody ends up on the same page. If you don't do that, that confusion that you felt and probably is felt by everybody else is going to get carried forward and the follow-up may not be very good or efficient because everybody had a different understanding of
right.
whatever the conversation was or the results of the conversation. And it's very, very easy, especially when there are multiple people on a conversation, uh, to have all that be very confusing unless someone kind of clarifies and summarizes the
Oh,
understanding.
oh, absolutely. And especially as we are doing so much of this work remotely, over Zoom, over phone conversations, and there is a lot that can get missed or lost in translation. And I think sometimes that development officers, board members, CEOs even are maybe a little afraid to ask the next question that's going to clarify, maybe indicating, well, I didn't quite understand it. And so it makes them perhaps feel a little vulnerable. But the way that you ask it is, it's consensus building. It brings everyone together.
To me, a good listener is someone who really hears people and makes people feel like, wow, I was heard. Someone
Yeah,
really listened to me.
yeah. That's so important too, because how people feel about the organization, about the people that they're dealing with, and their trust, and as you said, that they have been heard, really influences then the action that they take, right? They have to feel
Absolutely,
heard.
Susan. I think that the personal interaction that people have is critical.
We also want to talk with people about their passion, what they are really passionate about. And, I think you did that nicely when you introduced us to a donor that ended up making a seven-figure plus gift to the program. And it was about connecting to passion. And then I think the CEO did a fabulous job of listening to his interests very specifically with respect to what he wanted to accomplish in the program.
It's not easy on some level to always go out and try to look for and get new major gifts and transformational gifts, but just know that you're all doing really important work, and I, for one, certainly appreciate all the work that you do.
Oh, that's very kind. That's very kind. Thank you.